Carmen, thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you so much for everyone being here online and offline. Sorry for the technical difficulties that happen sometimes. We have to remember that we're all humans and we can't rely on technology all the time. I think that's something very important to have in mind nowadays. And first of all, I want to say a huge, huge thank you for the United Nations and the team in the United Nations, Carmen, Mercedes, Jake, and everyone who invited me to do this very special show in a very important moment in time where we really have to talk about peace and we have to talk about depth with everything that is going on nowadays. Me having the opportunity to do this show, it's extremely, extremely meaningful. Also, as a Mexican immigrant female artist, having the opportunity to represent the Spanish language this month is something extremely huge. So really, it's one of the most meaningful exhibitions of my life. And I'm very, very grateful for this amazing opportunity and for the opportunity to also share my trajectory, So we're going to start. Without further ado, let's start. So my name is Arantxa Rodriguez, pronounced Arantxa. I always say, everybody asks me, how do you pronounce my name? I'm from Mexico City, born and raised. And something that I do want to say about my work is that my work exists at the intersection of personal transformation, community engagement, and visual language. Those are like the three main courses of my work. It's not only about painting and making things look beautiful. Pronounced Arantxa. So I've been always drawing since I was very, very young. And something interesting is that I've always drawn geometry. Since I was really, really young, it was always circles or squares. I always drew very abstract. And drawing was a big, big part of my life. Even when I was in school, I remember that the teachers always broke my drawing because I was not paying attention. But actually, I was paying attention. For a way for me to pay attention is I'm looking at a screen, I'm hearing a podcast, and I'm drawing. That's the way that I focus my attention. So since I was a kid, I was always drawing geometry. And then I studied media communications in Universidad Iberoamericana in Mexico. And I studied media communications because it was the career that I felt that I could be more creative in. I never imagined that I could study art or literature, something more artistic, because it was always we have to study something that is going to give us a better job. I think that's a mentality that a lot of us have. So I was where can I be the most creative? And that's why I decided to study media communications. And when I graduated college, I had the opportunity to work in an advertising agency. Here's literally me sending the emails and always with drawings. And the creatives and the advertising agency were you're an artist. What are you doing here? You should really pursue the arts. So they encouraged me to frame my drawings, start putting them in different contests, and they created a logo. So the same creative people from the advertising agency encouraged me to pursue the arts. So I started literally framing my fractals and my sacred geometry without knowing that it was fractals or sacred geometry. And as I started drawing them and as I started sharing them with the world, people were like, oh, those are fractals. That's sacred geometry. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I started researching what I was drawing. And at the beginning of my career, when I didn't even consider myself as an official artist, I saw that what I investigated made me learn more. And as I drew, I knew what I was doing. So it was kind of this dance between not knowing what I was doing and then at the same time also informing myself with I feel that this language in a way it came to me. It wasn't I liked fractals or sacred geometry and then I started doing it. It was kind of the other way around. And at the end of the day, we all have that inside of us because everything is sacred geometry around us. So then I started going a little bit more meaningful with my work and with what I was doing. So all my work is hand-drawn. Nothing is digital. Maybe sometimes I draw something and then I digitize it, but from the beginning, everything is completely made by hand. So I started working on this series of drawings. I have a lot of them. I'm just sharing a few of them here. They're all handmade. So this is the ones that the creatives at the advertising agency started observing, started telling me come on, frame them, show them, put them in contests. So then I started framing my work. And I started portraying them in a golden briefcase, kind of to show like what is like the inner world and the outer world. That's why I there's like a significance behind the briefcase. At the end, there's also going to be an opportunity for questions, and I can always go back to any slide that you wish. And then as I started like drawing as well, I decided to take the abstract to a little bit more figurative. I started doing a lot of magazine interventions, put like fractalized people. So like it became like another context of my work. And this is my first exhibition in 2013. The first time that I was still in the advertising agency working, but I was already pushing my art very, very forward. Something important to mention as well is that as all this was happening, I was also recovering from addiction. I used to be a big party girl and I started recovering from addiction. I started going to rehab, I started healing, and I started climbing and running marathons at the same time that I was working already like all these paintings. And I started collaborating with a charity called Mejiro that it talked a lot about like conscious and life. So I started going up mountains, running marathons, carrying my work to show what is a good life and what it is to like overcome ourselves and make it to the peak in a certain way. So I started doing putting my work and there's something interesting about this is that this is like my first work that I started doing with community. The first time that it's not only the art about me and what I do, but like how can I actually touch people in a more like hands-on way. So this is like my first reach with community. So I started running marathons always with my fractals on my shirts. I also got invited to run the ultra marathon at Burning Man in 2014, a long time ago. Burning Man is very different nowadays. It's nothing what it used to be. Back then it was more about community. So I ran this marathon with my shirt. I made this special drawing for Burning Man. We did a whole truck. And then this is like all the bikers and the ultra marathoners from the Burning Man community with my fractal in the back. So yeah, I just don't make my work. I live my work. And then in around 2014, my grandmother passed away, and she gave me a little sum of money to all the grandkids. And while I was already in the advertising agency, hearing all this talk of like, you should push your art. I think your art has a lot of purpose. You should go for it. And then the fact that I received some help from my grandmother made me quit my job, rent a studio in downtown Mexico, and just dedicate myself fully on the arts. So this is one of my first murals in the studio that I had in Mexico. My grandma, Maria de Los Angeles, she's always very present in everything that I do because in a way I started things to her. And this is one of my first fractals that I do outside my studio. And here's where I start playing a lot with black light. So in the day, this is how it looks. And then when the light changes, it looks like this. I love working with black light, not only because the way that it looks, but it has a significance as well. There's an amazing phrase from Carl Jung that I adore that is, if we don't make the unconscious conscious, we're going to think that our conscious is ruling our life and we're going to call it destiny. And no, nothing is destiny. Everything is from the unconscious. So that's why I love working with black light, because it says that if we don't really see our unconscious or most hidden parts of ourselves and we don't work in it, at the end of the day, we're not going to be in the peace that we want to be, because we all want to be happy, right? Again, if you see, this is the one of the drawings that I showed you before, and how I integrate now black light, how I put more layers to it. I brought up the scale. So I started playing with my drawings, turning them more like installations. And then something amazing that started happening is once I moved to my studio in downtown Mexico, I started getting invitations to show abroad. So these pieces, I brought them to London. So I was like, okay, yeah, things are working, like I'm starting to like get invitations to work abroad and all that. I think this This little game of being an artist is not a game anymore. It's actually like working. This is a video that you can see in my YouTube channel. Because of the technical difficulties, I'm not going to be able to play it right now. But it's one of my other big pieces that's called Chronos Abolition. It's a huge canvas that I turned into a clock. I went to downtown Mexico because everything happens in downtown Mexico. I went to downtown Mexico and I created real clock arms. I made the arms of a real clock, and this is a piece that the arms go around, and the arms have black lights, so they like illuminate the whole piece. And this is a piece that I made talking about time, how time doesn't exist, how time is also a construct, how we're always running, trying to catch up time. So it's a whole piece that talks about that I made for a show in Italy that's called Time and Memory. And then also, while I was starting to show abroad, I started also working with brands. So I started going a little bit more commercial because artists, of course, we have to eat as well. You know, it's always the fight that we have between like, I don't want to be that commercial. But at the end of the day, I also think that if we have the opportunity to inject positivity and like more depth to certain brands that maybe they're not that deep, why not do that? You know, like the point is to like impact and help and elevate. So if you want to hack the system, you have to hack it from inside. So this is a collaboration that I made with Comex, one of the most popular brands of paint in Mexico. I made a condom case for Playboy. I made a giant football for FIFA and Banamex, one of the most important banks in Mexico. It's a huge ball made out of sequins. And of course, each piece has like its depth and its explanation that for a matter of time, right now, I'm not able to go deep. But for example, like this football talks about like the different layers of the mind. That's why the sequence and then the carcass and then it has light and like every layer means something different. And like every piece has like a significance. And then this is, okay, we come to a part of the presentation that it's very special for me because this man, his name is Alberto Vasquez. He was the father of the owner of the print shop where I started doing all my lithographies. So I started going to print my work, and I always saw this man in a corner watching like with like a magnifying glass all the like black and white pictures of like very very famous people. So Alberto used to be the official photographer of two Mexican presidents in the 60s and 70s. And when I was always waiting for my prints, I always sat down next to him and he started telling me like all these amazing stories. And one day he was like, let's do a collaboration. So Alberto Vasquez gave me 24 different photographs of famous people from the golden age of cinema. And we did an amazing collaboration. Alberto passed away last year, around like, I don't remember, maybe like 80 something years old. He was a very, very dear friend. And this show that I made with him, he gave me 24 different photographs where I fractalized all of them, and we played with different lights as well. This is with white light, and this is with black light. It's a huge series, so that for a matter of time, I'm just going to show this to you. But something also important about this series is that it was my last solo show before I moved to New York City. So having the opportunity to honor Mexico in that way was extremely special for me. And then at the same time that I was already doing this work, and this work was shown in Galeria Oscar Roman. He also passed away last year, very close to Alberto, which was like very, very meaningful. Also, with this show, I entered a contest and I won the opportunity to decorate a hotel room in Alicante. It's a hotel room that's called Dormir de Cine, and each room portrays a different movie. So I did one of the rooms with Maria Felix. And then at the same time where I was doing all this, I was working in the Museum of Modern Art in Mexico, giving tour visits. So I was there for 3 years doing tour visits, and always like my approach with like different communities and different charities. I linked up with a charity called Arte por la Vida, and I did also tour guides and workshops with people from homeless shelters, kids from homeless shelters in Mexico. And then, thanks to all the hard work, I started figuring out if it was time to go and study a master's in fine arts. I don't think that you need a master's in fine arts to be a good artist. Absolutely not. But in my case, since I didn't have formal artist background, I received a lot of advice from different galleries. One of them, Oscar Roman, rest in peace. He was like, yeah, if you want to take this seriously, I pursue you to study a master's in fine arts. So I applied to different schools, and I ended up in School of Visual Arts. And also thanks to like the work that I did in the Museum of Modern Art, like the support that I got from them, everything happened for me to be able to make it to New York City. And when I arrived to New York City, I had a mentor called Sheila Pepe, an amazing artist, that she literally sat down with me the first day and she's like, if you want to be a real artist, if you want to like take this seriously, I don't want to see no more fractals. No more fractals, no more geometry. If you use a medium, I don't want you to use a medium. So she literally like completely like I was naked. I was naked there in my first day in my Master's of Fine Arts, going like I don't know how to do anything. And thinking what I was going to do, because I had tried different techniques, I was like, well, I'm going to do performance work. And I created these 3 characters. So this is like a huge like turnaround of all my work, because after drawing and doing geometry, I started doing performance work. So I created these 3 characters. One of the performance is called Becoming Green Tara, because I've been studying Buddhism for the past 10 years. So I did a performance where I dressed up as Green Tara, and I literally went out to the street to do like normal things that we do, like the supermarket. I even went to the club. I rode the ferry, the subway, everything with Green Tara's mantra in mind, and pretending that I was like a Buddha. And then I did a lot of writing about it. You know, of course I'm not a Buddha. Of course I'm not enlightened yet. So I started like doing all this exercise, and then I created another character called De la Merituarte. De la Merituarte is a gallerist that literally goes around in the street talking about trash or things that she sees in the walls as if it was art, literally. So like a lot of art lingo and like analyzing the negative space. And so that's what De la Merituarte does. And then the third performance is called the Selfie Project, where I took a selfie of myself, of course, and then I turned it into a tattoo artist, into a temporary tattoo. I tattooed it all over my body, and then I took another selfie, and then I created like this kind of like Inception selfies. And after I did that, I started going to a lot of art fairs around the world. I went to Mexico, Miami, New York, London, to Freeze, to Nada, to Untitled, to like all the art fairs that you can imagine, with a sheer dress full of tattoos. So what I did is I arrived to the fair, and then I went to the bathroom, I took off my clothes, and then like I put like a transparent gown, and I started walking all around the art fairs with a selfie stick, asking people what is the difference between self-love and narcissism, and what is art. So I started doing all these performances. I started writing about it. So this was my journey with performance work. And also something important is that it also touches community. This is one time where I did an exercise in an open studios at SVA. And this man came into my studio and he was completely mesmerized. He kneeled down in front of me. He started crying. And I was completely, I had to like, I literally broke character, because I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, he started talking to me as if I was Green Tara. He started going like, I've been practicing your practice for like a long time. I can't believe that I'm entering this place and I see you. Like, it was a guy that literally practiced Green Tara's meditation. And I mean, it was very shocking for me. It was a very, very special moment, because for me, this man was Green Tara entering my studio, not the other way around, you know? So those are the kind of surprises that I encounter in my performance work. This is De la Merituarte, literally in Mexico City, giving a tour in the street, talking about how like everything is art. Like, for example, like that thing in the floor, it can be like an abstract drawing, and she talks about it and she explains why it's art and why the artist made it. And everything is in my YouTube channel. Like, if you want to go deeper, you can go in my YouTube channel. And then this is me in I think this is Independent Art Fair in New York, doing the selfie performance with all the people. And I received all kinds of comments. It's so interesting because I received comments of like, because they look real. So people are like, oh, you're so stupid. I can't believe that you did that. You ruined your beauty. And then there's people that they're like, oh my God, this is so hardcore. This is amazing. So it's so interesting also to see how like people think and the perspective that everyone has about the things you do. And at the end of the day, I just go to my house and I wash it off, you know? But it's interesting how to, something that I like about performance work and community work in general is that it's very anthropologic. You learn to create compassion with people and to learn how they think and see that it's a massive world with 1,000 ways of thinking. And then after my first year of my master's in fine arts, which by the way, Sheila Pepe failed me in my first year, but that's another drama that I'll tell you later. And I had to like do a like another round of depth to like all my performances. And once I presented again to her, in my final presentation, I decided to make the real tattoo of my selfie in my hand. And when she came to, when I can't show the people online, I'm so sorry, but I have my face and my arm tattooed. It's here. So when she came for the final presentation, it was me in my studio with a real tattoo artist doing my selfie in my hand and me with a selfie stick. And Sheila Pepe came in and I was like, it's the selfie performance. And she was like, I can't believe that you're doing your face in your arm. And I'm like, I'm not kidding. I'm for real, you know, like this is serious. And then Sheila, in that moment, she said, okay, you passed your second year of your master's in fine arts, but you can't do any performance. You can't do anything that you did in your performance. So again, she broke me to pieces and I had to figure out what I was going to do in my, oh, it's working now. Thank you so much, Jake. So I had to figure out what I was going to do in my second year of my master's. So I was like, I'm going to work with string. So I decided to go to Teotitlán del Valle, to the Mexican, to the artisans, and started researching how they made the natural dyed string. And something important about this is that a lot of these traditions nowadays they're losing because they're fading away because their kids are going to college. So there's a lot of these amazing traditions that are losing. So part of my project as well was how can we collaborate with these traditions to enhance them and not make them fade away in a way. So I went to the communities and I started working with their natural dyed strings. I started doing this string installations. So when the string entered my practice, that language needed to connect to something beyond me. It needed roots, history, material, and that's what led me back to Mexico to work with indigenous artisans whose knowledge of natural dyes and fibers carries generations with it. So literally from the first year of doing performance, again, I switched it completely and I started doing string work. And this string work also touches a lot of my Buddhist practice, because the way that I created this work is in an active meditation. If I'm not really focused in the wall, pulling the string, it's very hard. It's a very hard work because it's very meticulous. So this work in particular mixes my Mexican culture, my Buddhist practice, and my contemporary art practice. So I started creating this string installations. And each installation also carries like a different meditation. So this one, for example, it's mind observing mind. The way that I started making it is, as I was making it, I was always observing like my mind, observing my mind, the kind of thoughts that came out and letting them go. Like it was an active meditation. So it was just like mind observing mind. And for example, this one that it's called, well, this is mind observing mind. This one in the middle is it's called universal compassion. And I made it literally like doing compassion meditations all the time, going back to the compassion, going back to the compassion. And in a way, it's like it's my representation of Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of a thousand arms. And then I created my thesis that's called The Thread That Weaves Us All, that talks about this the three different aspects of my work. And then after I graduated college, I entered an artist residency that also touches community that's called Project Art. So I started working with kids in public libraries. And then the pandemic hit in the middle when I was doing that residency. So we had to change all the work online. And this is me giving the workshops online to all the kids. And then also in the middle of the pandemic, I started creating not really fractals, but still abstract. I started doing a series of black and white drawings. So it's also a change from the color, from the light. And then this is a project that I did with my kids online. So what I did is one of my drawings, I cut it into different pieces, and I emailed the parents a section of the different drawings. The kids at home worked on the different sections of the drawings. They mailed it to me to my studio. And once I was in my studio, I created this big drawing with like all the different pieces of the different children. So it's also a way to say that it's community work, and it doesn't matter if we're in the middle of the pandemic. Of course, we can do something together. And then it's so funny, like the same way that I'm showing this work right now in the United Nations in the middle of the chaos that it's happening, the same way in the middle of COVID, I got an award to make a mural in a hospital. So in the middle of COVID, I worked with New York City Health and Hospitals to paint a mural in the entrance of Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx. It says, wherever the art of medicine is loved, there's also a love of humanity. So it was super interesting also, like working with doctors, having all the meetings and taking my art kind of to like a different realm as well. And then after all the community work, after all the charity work and everything that I was doing with community, I worked with a different community, which is corporate America. I got a commission to do a piece for an investment bank, and it was a huge learning curve in my career because learning to work with corporation, it was something also really interesting. And I didn't do a contract with them, and you can imagine the huge drama that it was. So I did a piece for Hyperallergic that's called "Artists Should Never Take on a Commission Without a Contract." So this is, if you want to read it, you can go to Hyperallergic. But also it's one of like the proudest works that I've ever done because it plays with textures, with string, with a lot of different materiality. And yeah, it's a different kind of community, corporate America as well. And then I also won another grant to do a second mural in Lincoln Hospital that I linked it to Spanish Heritage Month, where with the community of Lincoln Hospital, we also worked on the draft, and I did a mural for the maternity ward. So yeah, all these murals are in Lincoln Hospital. If you ever want to come and visit me, send me an email. I would love to take you there. And also, like, again, talk with the community, like going every day to paint with the hospital. Like I started becoming friends with the security people, with the doctors. And that's something that I really like about being a community artist, that it takes me outside my studio and outside like the normal things. And then I won the award of the New York City Mural Art Project. This was a project that the Department of Mental Health created 5 years ago. And it was an artist to make a mural to abolish the stigma of mental health. So I worked with a charity called Service for the Underserved. It's people coming out of addiction, homelessness, and incarceration. So for around 4 months, I worked with all this community doing different workshops to sensibilize them with art. I taught them how to make mandalas, ojos de Dios. And then we did also like a lot of poetry workshops with a poet that also came in, and we created the name Empowerment Through Gratitude. That was the name of the mural. So it was one of my favorite projects because literally from zero, we created everything with them. The theme of the mural, what was going to go in it. And then this is one of my favorite pieces of all time that's called An Actual Image by David Alfaro Siqueiros, my favorite Mexican muralist. So what I did is I took the hands of Siqueiros and I put it in different papers, and I wrote, what does empowerment through gratitude mean to you? And we had, I can't tell you how many workshops we had around Harlem with different charities and communities where they all portrayed what empowerment through gratitude meant to them. And then after I took I took all the drawings in, and with everything that with all the information that they gave me, I created this mural. Oh, and it was for this wall that it's in 137 and Park in Harlem. And what was amazing about this wall is that the Metro North passes directly in front of it. So it was a great place to show the voices of all these people. So this is the draft that I made. This is me presenting to the community in Harlem. And then this is the final draft that we made. And this is how it's supposed to look in the wall. We started painting it all together. We did a lot of community events to paint the mural all together. This is me fixing all the seams of the mural. And when we were 2 weeks to installing the mural in the wall, it's a special material called polytab that you put it with a special chemical. The Department of Mental Health had some negligence and they decided to stop the project. So the mural never went up the wall. The mural never went up. It's in a storage. I have 144 rolls of polytab in a storage. And I had to show my face to the Harlem community and explain them why it couldn't happen. It was super sad. It was super sad. Yeah. All the work. The good thing is that for a whole year, people that came out of homelessness, incarceration, and addiction went to paint. So at the end of the day, the goal of the project happened, no, which was to activate these people to give them a matter of life. People had nothing to do. They just came out of homelessness, incarceration, and addiction, and they went every day to service for the underserved to paint. So already the goal of the mural did happen, but the mural never came up. They never saw their work. And I tried. I literally renewed my O1 visa to try to put it up, and I couldn't do it. It could never happen. So now I have a storage full of polytab material. And then because of this was in 2023, it was so impactful that it threw me into a very dark place. And I started going deeper with my meditation practice. I started doing really long retreats, taking my meditation practice more seriously. And I started going to a retreat, to a retreat where literally in my room, I used it as an artist studio as well. This is my artist studio. And I created this massive mandala made out of all the advertising. So if you see here, it's all the flyers and the advertising of the Buddha Center. I started cutting all the Buddhas and I made this huge mandala. And then here is where this show starts today. So in all this journey, I started drawing different symbols of my spiritual practice. So I did the Buddha. And this is how the work that we have downstairs came about, out of this huge introspection that I had, and this time that I took a break to kind of put my life together more internally than anything. I started creating these drawings, and that's how this series came about. These drawings already existed, and when I had the opportunity to show here, I was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, I want to take my drawings into large-scale paintings. And again, with black light, this is how it looks. So again, it changes the black light. So I go back to the theme of how we have to shine a light to our darkness to be able to see it. Part of that healing journey, I also did a lot of retreats with women to connect with the sacred feminine. And I can talk literally I can do a whole talk about this, which matters of time. I'm just going to show this picture. And I did that big mandala coming out of all the research that I did and all the inner research and research that I did during those retreats. So it's a huge mandala with dried roses. And also, if you look at the image with what I made this piece here, the uterus, it's literally the drawing that I used to make the piece downstairs that we have hanged, which is the sacred feminine. And then with black light, I wish we could show it with black light here, but at 5 p.m. when the building closes, it's still light. So And this is the Vajra. Drawing it. And with black light. Black light is it's like a purple light that with certain paints, when you put the black light, it reacts to it, it shines. So there are certain paints that are fluorescent, they have different pigments that when you put the black light, it shines. The colors get enhanced. Ultraviolet. Thank you so much for that. It's ultraviolet. Yep. And also, when you turn off the light completely, like it's glow in the dark. So it has also three layers. It's like the normal layer that we see with normal light. And then if you turn off the light, you can see it glow in the dark. And then if you put the black light, some colors shine. So there's actually three layers to the work. And yeah, that's it. 40 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to me.